I'm your host, Kenai Andrews, and we have another great show for you today. As I'm joined by, of course, our weekly co-host, Noel Club, as he joins us on the Crossfire Roundtable today. But first of all, we want to wish you a very happy new year, continued health and prosperity in 2021 as we move forward and put the year that was 2020 behind us. And I'm sure I can speak for most, if not all, of the Countdown Nation. Please remember to download both the Barn Burner and Zingo TV apps from the respective iOS and Android app stores. The apps are free to download, so please like and rate while you are downloading. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. I'd like to say a special shout out to the Crossfire Nation at MMACrossfire.com, where I am the editor in chief, for their continued support in 2020. And we hope to see you uh, in 2021 each and every week. All right, and let's introduce, of course, the co-host Noel Club, who, of course, is a certified boxing coach at Boxing Ontario, where he trains elite and professional and amateur athletes. He's also the host of the popular knockout and club track shows here on Barn Burner. He's also a boxing columnist online with MMA Crossfire, and he joins us from his home in Toronto. Noel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, sir, as always. Always a pleasure and happy new year.
Happy New Year to you as well. It's 2021 now. We finally get to say that. I've been looking forward to it. I'm sure you have as well. And we saw the new year christened last night with a WBC interim lightweight title fight. And I'm sure you were watching, Noel. So give us your thoughts on the Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell matchup we saw.
Yeah, like personally, I thought Ryan Garcia was going to go in there doing very well. So, really, for my viewing and watching, I kind of thought what I saw was kind of expected for the most part. But of course, that initial knockdown was, by Luke. Luke Campbell dropped Garcia early on in the fight in the second round of the match. That was for me. That was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
I was not really expecting. Uh, Luke Campbell could really give him a rough ride, which he really didn't. But for that moment, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? But of course, the nice comeback by Ryan and comeback was that by shot like, later on, and of course to stop of course Garcia later on stop Campbell in the seventh round.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I expected was from Garcia. It was a really convincing, dominating performance, and so yeah, he came up in the end. So yeah, congrats to Garcia. That was well done.
He improves to 21-0 now with 18 knockouts. Before the fight, he had a lot of the it was the social media darling. He was a young, up and coming, good looking kid. Put him on a cereal box and all of that good stuff. But now we saw, a reaffirmation of his actual boxing skills. And you mentioned it, getting off the deck there from the knockdown and stopping a very tough Luke Campbell, who kind of reminds me, Noel, of Roy Country, Big Country Nelson in the UFC. A tough guy with good skills, but a guy who just couldn't seem to get over the hump in terms of, the title picture. So where does this for you? Does this solidify Garcia as a pay-per-view draw, someone that we can look forward to in 2021?
I think he's a draw. I don't know if he is like the guy, but he is definitely a draw. He's definitely exciting to watch. There's no doubt about that part. But as far as like being like the top three guys at the weight division, that's yet to be seen, right? We have to really see that next, which this could probably happen pretty soon, probably much happen sooner than later, I'd imagine. Now where he's at now in the ranking system, and so yeah, he can be truly tested. I think next year.
Now, of course, he is the interim champion. Of course, there are the other champions there, with Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and Tank Davis there.
Yeah.
Is he ready for that kind of a competition, or do you think he needs to continue with a couple of tune-up fights before meeting those guys?
Yeah, great question. I'd say obviously for me, but yeah, take a couple more tune-up fights before you even jump in those kind of matchups. So he's to me, he's a great fighter, great young fighter, and you're right, he's a poster boy for sure. That's why I see him too. I hope for his sake he can step up to the Javante Davises and Lopez, those kind of guys, and put on a good show. That's gonna be yet to see, right? We're gonna have to see how that unfolds itself. But if I'm Garcia's shoes right now, I got to be pretty excited. I just a big step up into the upper part of that category, basically knocking on the doors of these top level fighters in that weight class. So this is gonna be should be a good year for Garcia moving ahead.
Yes, definitely for his bank account, if
Yeah,
not
everything,
everything
right?
else.
Bank count is basically his bankability, all those good things. I think it's going to be a big year for Garcia moving forward for him.
All right, now what about Luke Campbell here? Because obviously, it was a tough loss for him. He probably thought he had the fight won, and he was obviously very disappointed after the bout. He said he was, that was the hardest shot he had been hit with, that body shot by Garcia.
Yeah.
So where do you see Campbell shaking out in 2021?
Well, I think Campbell, unfortunately, because of where he is in the weight class, I think he's gonna have a tough go. Because now, like after that, he's gonna have to face other people that are not quite of that caliber, and have a tough fights up ahead of him, basically. But
Should he
yeah, it
move
just
up?
shows you, right, the levels, right, the levels of these weight classes, and ways different fighters going to fall into those levels of these weight classes. And to me, Campbell's is not of that upper echelon. He's good. Don't get me wrong. When that level is tough, that's kind of a prerequisite. But I don't think he's of that upper echelon. And that's going to be the true test moving forward for him. Moving
Yeah,
forward,
might have to move up there, I guess, and
the weight class or something of that nature, just have a better shot. Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing though, in 2012 he was the gold medalist. He was on top of the world there, member of the British Empire and all the benefits and privileges that go with a title such as that. And now, he's on the floor looking up, kind of, going back to the drawing board in terms of rebuilding his career and trying to get that elusive title.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, well, loss in boxing, it's really is such a critical thing, like that one loss is so vital to your future earnings. Obviously the purse you're looking at, quality opposition you'll be facing the next little while. So once you have a loss, it's always, you're right. It's like kind of a rebuilding. It's really unfortunate in the sport, but that's the reality of it all. It's very tough sport.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get here, moping or being discouraged. I'm sure Campbell will think about it with his team, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come back stronger.
Regroup
Again,
and
I
come
think
back at it again.
I highly suspect 2021 will be another year of opportunity, like 2020 was. Somebody gets injured or COVID interferes, then a chance opens for someone else. So let's see what he can do there. And speaking of 2020, we haven't really looked back yet here on the countdown in terms of the great moments and things that we can look forward to here in 2021. So I kind of wanted to touch on that. And I guess I really wanted to start off with a great moment that I thought was going to be really indicative of this man making a much ballyhooed return in 2020. And that man was Conor McGregor, jumping out of the gate early in 2020 with an impressive win over Cowboy Cerrone to begin the year. And of course, we all know what happened after that. We didn't see the man again
Yeah.
until this month when he comes back against Dustin Poirier. But that was a great moment in terms of the undisputed draw of the UFC, even after all the time he's been gone from the company, and just putting on a show, lighting up Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agreed. And I mean, hopefully 2021 will be a little bit better for good old Conor McGregor to be a little more active again, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we want to see it, and unfortunately, things didn't work out. With him wanting to get, jump right to Khabib there after the win over Cowboy, it didn't quite work out, and Justin Gaethje kind of stole everybody's thunder there.
Yeah,
But things are reset in 2021, and if he can get by Dustin Poirier, he might be able to sneak in there because I think Oliveira now and Gaethje are the top runners there. But with a big win over Poirier, he can be right back where he wanted to be.
you sure can be, right? If it's his name and what he's done, you can definitely get back there real fast. Unlike other athletes, he can get there way quicker,
Hmm.
which I'm sure he will.
Yeah. So that was one big moment for me. Another one was, if I switch to one championship, and you were here, Noel, through all of this when we had all of the one championship fighters on the show.
Yeah,
We had the kickboxing champion, Adam Wade. We had Janet Todd on the show. We had Stan Fairtex, who was the champion at
yeah,
that
Stanford
time.
Tex, yeah,
But not too long after she came on the show, actually, Stamp started losing her crown there.
Yeah,
First to this woman, Janet Todd, actually in February. She lost the belt, the kickboxing belt. Um, and then she lost the Muay Thai belt to Alicia Rodriguez,
that's right.
of the Brazilian, just coming in and putting on an excellent performance there in Stamp Fairtex's home country of Thailand. I kind
Hmm.
of lumped those two together, Noel, because it was really indicative again of another fighter coming in, both fighters coming in,
Yeah.
taking their shot, getting the and making the most of their opportunity to shock the world.
And that they did, right? We were all expecting Stamp to go in there and dominate as usual and do great. And there it was. We're all shocked. Like, what happened? You
Yeah, it was
have all
shocking.
these titles and you're doing so great. And it's like you had it all in the down here. And that's just
Yeah.
so how it can work out that way sometimes. But it does kind of show you really how important it is. You have to keep on developing. That's kind of what I thought. That's my take of watching Stamp, and then of course those fights he went through.
Yeah.
I didn't really think she was getting better during those periods of training, during those camps that she's
Mhm.
going through. I didn't see the improvement that you really have to keep doing when you're that stage. Even when you're a champion, you can't just stop. You can't stop learning. You can't stop developing. It has to keep on moving forward. So that's my I thought watching her was the lack of development during those fights, and it kind of to me exploited what was going on inside the camp.
Yeah, I guess, hindsight is 2020, but we're looking back, maybe she was spreading herself a bit too thin there and was trying to do, go into MMA and then the kickboxing and the Muay Thai. Perhaps it was a little bit too much for her. And
Perhaps.
having seen some recent footage of her, it looks like she's having fun in the gym again. She's training hard. Looks like she's going back to Muay Thai there. So it looks like she's going back to her roots there and kind of shoring those up before entertaining the other disciplines.
Yeah, that's a good move actually. Go back to your strength is a good move right now, especially coming off the losses of those that caliber and that level. It's
Yeah,
best to go back to your strengths. There's no doubt about that. It
yeah,
goes back to familiar territory, and you can build off that base and rebuild your confidence up and rebuild up your of course your skills and so forth. But that's a good move to go back. I think it's a good move.
absolutely. Shout out to all three fighters. We had them all on in 2020, and hopefully we can have them on again to get an update, because I'm sure all three of them will be in the mix at one championship in 2021. Another great moment, and I'm sure you can appreciate this one, Noel, is Errol Spence. I mean, this guy, he was on top of the world, got a little bit complacent, got a little bit full of himself, and had the car accident there, almost lost his life, and only came out really with some teeth lost and maybe some pride, and then comes back and works himself back into a big fight with Danny Garcia,
Yeah,
and then not only does he win, but he wins convincingly and kind of, in many people's eyes, not all, but many, cements himself as the number one guy in the welterweight picture and in perhaps pound for pound.
I think Errol Spence is the number one guy. Actually, I've always believed he was. And this is that you're right. The accident, the car accident, was throwing us all off the loop. So what's gonna happen to him next? He lost some of his front teeth there. So you're thinking about, okay, now he's got his mouthpiece on. He's got to bite down.
Yeah,
He takes a hard shot. How does he deal with that now?
yeah,
Because some changes took place since before the accident or after the accident. So yeah, I mean, he bounced back so phenomenally. I was so impressed by that. But to me, he always was skill wise like the best guy. That's how maybe I'm being biased there, but I always thought he was the best guy in the weight class. Now he's got to show it to the rest of the world, but I think he is the best guy in the weight class.
yeah. I agree, and perhaps it's an indication of just how how popular that division was. I think they kind of stole the limelight from in the sport of boxing. I think most people were
Yeah,
talking about
it's a
him
very
and
very
Terrence
very
Crawford.
tough weight class.
Yeah. So, um, you know, and not just cementing himself on the list, but also establishing himself as a box office draw. Selling out those stadiums there in
Correct.
Texas, those fights with Sean Porter and Mikey Garcia. Doing a lot of work to cement himself in a potential mega matchup with Terrence
Crawford.
Crawford, who
Yeah.
was, of course, undisputed at junior welterweight, but has not really had the activity or the big name fights at 147 to really establish himself as the A side in a potential matchup. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think unfortunately his stance on the contract is his biggest it's really his biggest downfall right now because he could have had a fight or two by now, that would have really kind of just kind of helped him stay sharp, if anything, in the
Mm.
meantime. But he's kind of really shot himself in the foot by demanding so much more money in these matchups. Otherwise, he's not going to fight. It was kind of to me, it's a little too I was gonna say a little too selfish, I think. We
Mhm.
all know what's going on economically speaking around the world and with the sports. We're not seeing the same numbers right now coming through. So you can't expect the money you're getting before the pandemic, to fight the next guy. It's not really reasonable expectation. So he's usually hurt himself, basically.
Yeah, you got to wonder what's going on with Bud and the team there. A 60-40 split in one of the biggest matchups seemed to be, I mean, to me and to many others, seemed to be a generous offer from Errol Spence, considering the work that the
Totally.
Truth has done in 2020. But I guess we'll have to see what happens there because the more we inch into 2021, the more pressure on those both of them to make that fight because both of them are not getting older or any younger actually.
Yeah.
Um, in
And really,
particular,
that's the fight people want to look at now for that weight class in the new year would be those two facing off, which is it's a natural matchup right there for those two to face off. So I hope Terrence comes around on his stance here to let that fight happen. Make it happen, man. Let's go, Terrence.
yeah, let's go. Let's go. Everyone wants to see it. And hopefully everyone comes around and they hammer something out. I'm sure something will happen, but as always, we have to see. I'm not going to hold my breath, but
Yeah. Could be a while longer, folks. Could be a while longer.
could be a while longer. But fortunately, there are other things to look forward to and a lot of things that have happened as well last year. And I want to touch on one here, and that was with Bellator. I thought Bellator near the end of the year captured some momentum with some high-profile signings there. I think with Anthony Rumble Johnson and with Yoel Romero, they really garnered some press and some excitement from the fans. Everyone wants to see those two guys get in the cage with each other, and for good reason. Both of them highly explosive guys, and you've seen what they were able to do in the UFC. And going into 2021, if they can hook that fight up in Bellator, that could be a big feather in the cap for the company.
Yeah, I could see that happening too early on in the new year. So that fight happening because I mean that you're right. That's the one people want to see in that Bellator. So I'd be shocked if you don't hear about that happening or unfolding or being a closed deal within the next 2 months. Oh yeah, come to spring, that fight's gonna happen. I really think so. It's gonna be probably a quick turnaround there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the company had been holding on to their long time, flyweight champion, Alimali McFarland there, losing the belt late in the year to Velasquez. So they no longer really have that charisma, the momentum. Obviously, they're still in the mix. There's the rematch that they can put together in 2021. But right now, she's no longer the champion. So Bellator is going to need something, and I think those two, Romero and Johnson, are definitely at the top of the list in
Yeah,
order
top
to
list.
keep the fans interested in the company.
Totally agree.
And of course, there's one other thing I should mention too. There are talks about Fedor having his last bout and who should be his last opponent in his storied career. We've seen fighters like Tito Ortiz and Josh Barnett volunteer to be the last opponent. But Fedor Emelianenko, obviously one of the greats of MMA. We know what he has done in Pride and in Bellator. What are your thoughts on Fedor and as he rides into the sunset in 2021?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, hopefully he can ride out, with some success and looking good. 'Cause you and I have seen a few fights this year, some people that were phasing out that should have been faded out earlier.
Yeah,
Well, I hope in this case it's a good showing. But yeah, you're right. It's all about the right matchup for him right now, going to
yeah,
his last match, which I hope they're very careful on finding the right matchup for him, going out, as you're saying, off into the sunlight. And so yeah, hopefully it'll be a good matchup for him moving
yeah.
forward rather than picking the wrong guy for the guy. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we all saw what happened to Anderson Silva in 2020. And obviously,
Yeah, no
if we
kidding.
can avoid something like that, I think Scott Coker will want to have a suitable opponent that gives Fedor, a tip of the hat, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's gonna leave with some respect and dignity and have a good showing.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, another great moment, I thought, the UFC had a great year in 2020. I thought, being one of the
Yeah,
leaders, bringing professional sports back into prominence during this COVID pandemic, being the first to establish the concept of the bubble and to put on consistent events with minimal COVID cases and occurrences, that sort of thing.
yeah,
Um, and then, as they move into 2021, it will be interesting to see what if they can continue that momentum and maybe take it to another level, maybe. Um, but in 2020, I gotta say, we had the number 10 strawweight on the show in Jan Jonan on the show,
right.
and there's a potential mega matchup there that Dana White could put together because, of course, Jan is the number 3 ranked strawweight, and Zhang, of course, is the longtime champion. Had a great fight of the year matchup with
Right.
former champion Joanna Champion early in the year. So, Dana White has an opportunity here where he can put those two together, maybe have an Ultimate Fighter uh, event featuring those two as tough coaches, and then have them square off in like an all China strawweight title fight.
Yeah, yeah. I think that'd be a great matchup. They'll have those two go head to head. That'd be fantastic, and it'd be really awesome to see from a female perspective to have a matchup of that caliber going head to head. Again, this help puts females back on the radar screen in a big way, and it'd be a very exciting fight to watch.
Right. And Countdown Nation, check out that episode because she did talk about it. We did ask her the question, and she is definitely interested in that matchup. She volunteered right away when we asked her. She definitely wants to be the coach and wants to face Wale and is not intimidated at all. So I think it would be a fascinating matchup if the UFC can capitalize on that and kind of maybe firmly entrench themselves in the Asian market there because
Yeah,
obviously one championship is the top dog over there in Asia, but the UFC, of course, is the global leader. And with fighters, with those two fighters, it's an amazing opportunity for them to kind of put some more boots on the ground over there.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, I would say really profile female fight happening. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and of course, some other moments that kind of tickle my fancy right now. Obviously, we saw the big runs by KC. The quick knockouts and before getting sidelined by COVID. We've seen Kevin Holland there with fighting 5 times in the year, going 5-0 with an amazing knockout of Jacare in his last fight there. We've seen the flyweight champion Figueiredo defend the title back to back in amazing fights, most notably with Brandon Moreno at 256. Um, a lot of great moments that the UFC can be proud of, but they cannot rest on their laurels, Noel. They've got to make sure that 2021 is just as good, if not better.
100%. This thing about the fight game, you're right. You can't sit on your hands. You got to keep it going. And I think it should be, I don't see why it'd be any different for UFC moving forward this year as far as matchups and fights. They should have a really good lineups for us in the new year for exciting cards. I really think they will.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's no reason. Those guys have been in the game a long time, and they definitely know that they cannot rest on their laurels, no matter how successful they were.
Yeah,
Um, so I expect them to reload, and obviously they have reloaded because we have Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier right out the
yeah,
gate. So that's a big fight, and an event just before that, they have a fight night there with Holloway and Calvin Qatar with the fight night. So, you know, that is the thing about the UFC. I mean, yeah, people like to knock them and complain about them, but they seem to be focused on what they want to do, and that's it.
they're doing a great job. I thought UFC did a great job. Through the whole pandemic, and I don't really understand the criticism they're getting. They're doing what they can with the situation, and They still press on, they still move forward, and they lose fights on every card due to COVID. They still make the best of it. So no, I'm really impressed with what they've done on the UFC. Very,
Yeah.
very, very impressed.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, there's the smaller organizations like Invicta FC, the premier women's mixed martial arts organization. They were steady there in 2020. They continued to put on shows. I think they were more affected by COVID than obviously the big guys, because they're as a smaller organization.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah,
Those fighters, if they lose a couple fighters, it affects them much more,
yeah,
obviously.
correct.
But it was good to see them continue to stand their ground and put on some good shows. And hopefully they can continue to do that. We saw some good performances from their fighters. We saw Jennifer Maya, although she lost the title fight there, she put on a good performance there. And we saw Miranda Maverick come into the organization with a good win there. So let's see what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. It should be good. Should be some good fights up ahead there, folks. Good fights for us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, those were some of my moments. And as I talk about them, a few more pop in my head, but I want to give you a chance, Noel, to share some of your moments. What did you think was noteworthy in 2020, and what are you looking forward to in 2021?
Yeah, sure. For me, I have to go back to the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight.
Yeah.
Number two, I thought that was to me is more the fact of watching Wilder not able to block a jab, but that just really blew my mind. Watching someone utilize a jab correctly and effectively the way Tyson did against Wilder. That's the way you approach it. Use that long reach, and he had that strong jab that he was working on the most. Of course, putting a right hand behind those strong jabs just to finish him off.
Yeah.
So to me, actually, I enjoyed that fight. I really did, especially watching how Tyson Fury lost on the scorecards. The first fight, when I thought he won it, but he can come back and just dominate Wilder the second time around, that's brilliant. This fighting's all about. It's come back stronger and winning. And yeah, also the shock too for me was Lomachenko. The way he performed against Lopez is like I watched Lomachenko going back to his amateur days when he's in Olympic trials in 2012. I watched him for that whole stretch and return pro. So I was really shocked watching him, how he performed, watching him give away 5-6 rounds the way he did, which he would never ever do the way he did. So that was kind of a shock fight for me. Was watching that one. So that was a shock fight for me. Was Lopez against Lomachenko, and the one I probably enjoyed the most would be Jose Zepeda against Ivan. I can't remember this guy's last name was Bornacki. They fought with a great back and forth matchup they had with one another. That was a great one too. And of course, Javante Davis. I did enjoy that fight against.
Yeah, that was a good fight.
Enjoyed that fight as well. That was good. It wasn't supposed to be that close early on, but it was pretty close.
It was pretty close
early on, and so I actually did enjoy that part. It was actually pretty cool to watch that.
Yeah, that was an amazing finish there. Just crushing uppercut there that sent him down to the canvas.
That was amazing. Yeah, exactly. The uppercut was just perfect. The way way it all worked out and folded. Just be in the right place, right moment, right time, and boom, there it was. And yeah, this beautiful uppercut. That was definitely the highlight for me for a knockout. Was his knockout there, and actually also to me the nice surprise watching. It was a charity fight, but just watching Mike Tyson come back the way he did. I actually really enjoyed that. He trained so hard. He looked brilliant in his training, and the hand pad work looked fantastic. He's hungry. He's focused. He's watching this guy who's 53 years old, kind of resorting back to 20 something year old in his training, the way he fought. I was really, really impressed. And so yeah, that to me was a bit of a highlight, was watching Mike Tyson come back the way he did. Even with a charity fight, he still looked really, really great. And still looked like he's like his old former self from way back when.
Yeah, he looked really good. That was a really good choice there, because the thinking was, having looked at those videos and thinking, oh well, we can't really judge the guy in a couple of YouTube videos. Sure, he looks good, but
hand pads, there can't be much at all going on there.
Yeah, but
he sure did. He looked fantastic. And his speed, I was impressed by his speed, and just the whole thing. I was just like, wow, right on, Mike. Right on, man.
Right on. And I think he said he wants to fight in 2021. So I think
Yeah,
all
there's
eyes
rumors
will be
right
on
now.
him.
Yeah, there's rumors of a possible potential Holyfield
Yeah.
or Lennox Lewis could be part of that equation. So we'll
Mhm.
see how that unfolds in the new
Yeah.
year for the next charity fight.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And and thinking of Lomachenko, I mean, wow. I mean, the guy just gave away so many rounds, like 6 or 7 rounds in the beginning of that fight, and Lopez, there you go again. Lopez taking advantage, not just from the fight, but in the beginning, negotiating that extra money, from Bob Arum and Lomachenko, kind of taking some money from Lomachenko's purse, and then going into the ring and just outboxing the guy.
Well,
Um,
actually, Lomo actually was a big part of the deal where he offered that. So
yeah.
because he wanted to fight, and he's not like as people think he is. He's a pretty balanced kind of guy. So I was
Mm,
really impressed by that how he did that. But I heard that like, of course, through negotiations, I'd heard that he was willing to come down the offer to make that fight happen. So that was again, it was very 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 cool to see him do that. Unlike
yeah.
Mr. Crawford, could learn a lesson from Lomachenko.
Yeah, well, they ought to sit Crawford in the room and watch the De La Hoya Mayweather fight, because that to me is what he should be watching, because he wants to be the A side all the time, obviously,
Yeah,
but, um, but he should look at how Floyd Mayweather did it, because obviously Floyd Mayweather before the Oscar De La Hoya fight was not the A side, was the B side, and when he went to fight Oscar, Oscar was the cash
yeah,
cow
he
at
was
that
the A
time.
side. Yeah,
So, Oscar demanded to be the A side. He demanded to choose everything about the fight, and Floyd Mayweather did that. He took the less money. I think it was 70-30 for Oscar.
yeah, that's right.
Oscar even probably choosing right down to the color of the shorts, and the color of the ring and the glove size and everything. And Mayweather went with all, because he knew that if he won the fight, that he would never again be the B side, and obviously that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Mayweather won that fight and never ever ever had to go through anything like that ever again.
And the timing too, like Mayweather's timing there was brilliant. I mean, who could have really foreseen that? Where you got this young, hungry guy, he's climbing the way he was, but to capture Oscar De La Hoya at the right moment when he's on the downswing of his career,
Yeah,
and really capitalize on all of that. And of course, the internal parts of being in the ring, the psychology inside his opponent's head, the way he did. A lot of things were going on there that I was just really impressed with looking back at that fight, that matchup. But it was timing too. A lot of those stuff was timing things that you really you really can't predict. It's a bit of a
yeah,
luck as well as being a driving force behind. Okay, I want this, but also you gotta have some little luck behind you to make sure those things come to play
oh
where
sure.
you're not winning against the top dog of that time, being the Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. It was definitely an opportunistic moment for him. But, the key is that he did recognize that it was an opportunistic moment, and he definitely took advantage of it. Imagine Floyd Mayweather at that time saying, well, no, I want to be the A side Oscar. You're going to have to take 70-30, or that's it. And
Well,
then,
plus too, Mayweather, keep in mind, Mayweather had also had his dad, his uncle, who were behind the scenes, were basically a big part of his career as well. I mean,
right.
those two were to me, his dad and his uncle were like the royalty of boxing. You
Mhm.
got this great technician, and you got the strategist behind you, and of course you have a young Mayweather in your fighter. So I mean, it's like an awesome threesome, just three powerhouses right there. You have a great talented fighter, the strategy and the skill set behind you.
Mhm.
That's it's a lot of ring IQ going on, behind the scenes, help driving you in the right direction. You
And
can't,
Terrence Crawford has Bob Arum.
yeah, yeah, but it's not the same as your family who has that kind of experience behind you.
Has top rank. Well, obviously, I'm kidding there. I'm sure Terrence Crawford has, his family has obviously been very good, and he definitely did have a great career at junior welterweight. He definitely had a plan there, and capitalized on that, becoming the undisputed man at junior welterweight. But some problems here at 147. It's that 140, and you can't take everything with you up to the next level. You kind of start at the beginning again. You got to rebuild yourself, and hopefully Terrence Crawford can put things together for us in 2021, because uh, I think everyone is really getting anxious about this fight.
Yeah, agreed. Because I mean, that's the fight's supposed to happen. Like like that's the fight's gonna happen, and now it's up to Terrence to change his stance on this whole negotiating of the contract thing. It has to change. He's got to
Absolutely.
realize, no, it's not the same market it was.
Yeah, and maybe another person that Terrence can learn from is Clarissa Shields. That was another big story in 2020.
That's a story.
Announcing her jump into the PFL and becoming a two-sport athlete, just shocking the world, and all eyes are on her to see what she can do.
Yeah, so truly. Mostly, I mean, it just shows like like she's already reached the pinnacle of her weight class in her sport. That's kind of downside. I really kind of feel for females fighting out there that, like they don't have a lot of competition for them. So once
Right.
they hit that plateau, it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
But then you have some like Claire Shields and think, okay, no, I'm going to go into another sport. I'm going to do that. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to win it.
Right.
I just love her approach. And if anyone has a shot at being successful, would be, in my opinion, would be Shields because she's just such a tremendous force, both mentally and physically. It's just a real force. And so
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of her. And but I totally understand why she did it. I get it 100%. She's looking for more opportunity to fight, earn more money along the way. And she's already, to me, she's already kind of capitalized in her weight class already. And
Mhm.
yeah, I know so the male classes, like, we're always like more and more and more competition you got to face off. But she's already reached the pinnacle already, and so she's like, I want more challenges, and this is my new challenge. So I'm really, really happy for her. It's a big step for her. She's doing
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. It's not like she's throwing boxing away. Like, she's
Correct.
still going to continue to do boxing, but now
Just
has
gonna
the
expand
additional option
horizon more.
of MMA, and perhaps a big fight with their champion, currently Kayla Harrison,
Yeah,
the women's lightweight champion there. That would be a fantastic matchup. And it kind of reminds me, Noel, of Ronda Rousey, when Ronda Rousey was the king of the female women's bantamweight division in the UFC, and then we saw a young Holly Holm, who
that's right.
then was known for her kickboxing and boxing, and was making the jump into MMA, and we all saw how that turned out.
Exactly. You could see that kind of thing transpiring here with Shields. She could be easily, because I mean, she has like tremendous knockout power. Shields. Like I've seen her hit hand pads. She can drop any guy, in her weight class. Like
Mhm.
there's not to be women can actually, I hate to say it, but it's true. Like in her weight class, she can do a lot of damage to a guy equal to weight class. The way she hits, it's just like she hits like with hammers, and she's gonna be a force to be reckoned with. I really see that moving forward for her.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And, when you combine all those things that she has, the hunger,
Yep,
the intelligence,
ring
the
IQ,
ring savviness, the desire, and,
former Olympian,
just
got a
wants to.
lot of background experience in fighting, strategy.
Mhm.
There's just so much going on there. It's really hard for anyone who doesn't have that kind of background like she has to step up and face her. That's just a lot to go up against. And to
Mhm.
think you have a shot at doing well, that's just wow. That's
Right.
intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
super
Um,
intimidating to fight her.
Absolutely. So she definitely has the MMA sewn up in terms of opportunities there. But in terms of the boxing, I still think she has a big opportunity there, because I think Katie Taylor is still around. And I wouldn't mind seeing a tilt or a matchup with those two. There was at one point, there was some talk of that, actually, because they were both undisputed, and both great fighters, and it looked like they were going to face each other at some point. But um, it might be a little bit less probable now that Clarissa is trying to learn mixed martial arts right now. But never say never, particularly when you have those fighters of those caliber
Yeah,
involved.
I mean, Katie Taylor's a really great fighter, but I don't see her beating Shields. Shields is just an absolute monster when it comes to power. Like she's quick too. It's not she's like she's not slow. She's not a tank. She's quick and very, very, very powerful.
Mm.
So I think she kind of just sees the Kate Taylor matchups and, well, yeah, happens, yeah, sure, but I don't think she's very concerned about it,
No, no, I don't think I've ever seen Clarissa really concerned.
about anybody.
Um, the only thing I've really seen her concerned about is her hometown state, of course, of Flint, and Michigan, and
Yeah,
the
Michigan State.
problems that they've had with the water and all of those things. She's very concerned about those things. But in terms of who was in front of her, no, sir. She's full steam ahead.
Yeah. Charity too, like I used to box in Michigan State. And Michigan State, I have to say, is the toughest state in the USA. When it comes to
Hmm.
boxing, it's the toughest. It has the most gyms,
Hmm.
a lot of champions out of those different gyms across
Mayweather.
the big state. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough state to box out of and do well. To
Mhm.
me, like that's how you measure, North American champion or not just American champion, but North American champions. I find my experience as amateurs is the amateur boxing in the USA and Michigan State is like it's outstanding. It's tough.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Definitely a state that has produced a lot of boxing content. Um, you have to wonder because with the addition of Clarissa, the PFL, they had a tough year in
Yeah,
2020. They had to cancel the
good
season,
point.
and so there wasn't really a lot to really talk about other than the signings. But then this signing by Clarissa kind of really brought the PFL back into
Yeah,
the
limelight.
spotlight. And with the season starting again in April, it's going to be interesting to see because you say $1 million, people's eyes light up, and I know that at the end of the previous season, people were paying attention to the playoffs there and those $1 million title fights. So um, the PFL has our attention with Clarissa, but
Yeah,
I think now they got some work to do, kind of to shore up everything else there. Because I think of Clarissa now when I think of the PFL and Kayla, of course. But
yeah.
the other fighters kind of get lost in the mix. So I think the PFL has to do some work there to promote the other fighters in the other divisions.
That's smart though. PFL did, to do that, to sign Shields, because now you have a star,
Mhm.
and like any kind of sports organization, you need to have that star,
Mhm.
to really help push your sport to the next level, from marketing point of view, everything point of view. So now they have that. They have Shields as their star,
Mhm.
and she can draw a lot of attention as time goes on. So no, very, very again, that was a good move. That's a great point you raised there about PFL. Yeah, it was a big move by them. Signing
Yeah,
Shields.
yeah, great move. Yeah. So, we have the PFL, we have the UFC, we have Bellator. We've talked about, their great moments there. Um, you know, One other moment that I think was great, and he was recently on our show, was Jake Hadley there. When we talked to him about his run there, winning the title, winning the Cage Warriors title there just recently in December. Um, it was a good win for him, and he already had the flyweight belt in the South African promotion, Extreme Fighting Championship. So here was a guy that, by most people's accounts, at least over there in Europe, is the number one or the number two flyweight there in the over there. And when we talked to him, you remember that he said he was very shocked that the UFC had not really come calling to him about joining the organization. So I'm going to put Jake Hadley as one of those people, one of those prospects to watch in 2021. If this guy is not in the UFC in 2021, I think I would be shocked.
I agreed. Jake should be there. I totally agree with you. He should be there. Yeah, he's a great prospect. He's exciting. He's a good talker.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
great
tough
talker.
fighter. He's
Yeah.
got to be there. Got to be there. He's got to be that part of that conversation for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it was a very dominant win there he had there at Cage Warriors 113, winning the belt. Very, very technical guy.
Yeah,
Rush nothing. He's very young, I think 24 years old, if I recall. But, with a lot of poise and a lot of ring savvy there, taking down a bigger guy, a more experienced guy, and making sure that he had no chance to really win the fight. I mean, all he could really do was, try to break out for a submission, but he was controlled on the ground for most of that fight.
yeah.
And it was not a lucky thing. A lot of it was done by by Jake Hadley. So, it'll be interesting to see if the UFC does pick him up. I suppose Bellator or maybe one championship could pick him up, but I really don't see that, Noel.
Yeah, I agree.
You
I
know,
agree
one
too.
champion.
UFC picks him up.
Yeah, one championship is actually looking forward to their champion, their flyweight champion, Adriano Moraes, who's actually going to face the longtime former UFC flyweight champion, Dimitri Mighty Mouse Johnson. That is going to be a big fight. A lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, no, definitely. And she was happening real soon. Yeah, I totally agree. It's gonna be a great fight to catch. Great one.
Yeah, I mean they tried to put the fight on before, but then things,
That didn't kind of fall
obviously
through there.
life interrupts,
Yeah.
things interrupt. But they finally got that fight slated, and it's going to be interesting to see if Demetrius Johnson can actually win the title. I know he won the tournament belt there. He had the tourney, and he won that one. But now this is for the actual belt there, and we've all seen what Mighty Mouse was able to do with the UFC, when defending the belt over 10 times, and being the first champion in the UFC for the longest time until Henry Cejudo finally knocked him off controversially, because I still think that was a very close fight there. A lot of people still think that Demetrius won that fight,
Hmm.
that rematch. But if Demetrius can go over there, then if he can become the flyweight over there, he becomes the champion in two different organizations, and obviously opportunities open up. He can fight maybe Figueiredo, come back and fight Figueiredo,
Hmm.
maybe if that fight is big enough. I mean, obviously he's been on record saying that he really wants to retire with one championship, but if Dana White comes up with a big enough bank account or offer, I have a feeling Mighty Mouse would at least
Yeah, I can
consider.
pull off one more. Yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah.
I can see
So
that.
it's amazing. Demetrius Johnson started off as a factory worker. He was like a forklift operator. Uh, and then to become the UFC champion is an unbelievable story. Just one of many, actually. But I would like to see a documentary about the life of Demetrius Johnson. So one championship, make it happen. He's there, he's at your service. So let's see what you can do there. But that kind of reminds me, Noel, of one other factor here that we've kind of touched a little bit on, and that is the changing of the guard. In the UFC, we saw a little bit of the changing of the guard. We've seen a
Yeah.
lot of new fighters come in and step in and take advantage of their shots. But there's still a little proportion, what I call the old guard, that is still clinging
Yeah.
to their spot.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to get guys like that out, you gotta take them out.
Yeah.
You're not
Basically.
going to give up their spot for anybody. And I think in 2021, I think it's more incumbent on these fighters. I think the new generation, I think they're realizing this more and more, that they have to take these guys out if they want to get the spot.
Yeah. Or just time. you know.
Or wait, yeah, they can wait. Yeah, they can
We'll
wait.
just wait till next year. How about that? But no, I see the same way too. Because you're right. You got all these new young people coming up right now, and they all want to build a name for themselves right away as soon as possible.
Yeah,
And I think it'd be probably a year, 2 years of this, of seeing these kind of just kind of, lack of a better term, a rivalry between the older camps and these new young guys coming into the mix, going
yeah.
head to head. So I think the next 2 years to be quite interesting, seeing more of this going on with the new and the young going head to head, clashing in these big matchups.
Yeah, because you can have guys like Frankie Edgar is still there. Jose Aldo is still there. I mean, Jose Aldo is still fighting competitively, but he lost a few fights. Obviously, had to change weight classes there.
Yeah,
We saw Jacare. Jacare got taken out there by Kevin Holland. I think that was symbolic of what the new generation needs to do. Not just take the guy out, but take him out emphatically.
finish them.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat, exactly. Flawless victory, which that was. So it is going to be interesting to see if the new generation can do that, because Dominic Cruz is another guy that is stuck his feather back into the cap. This is a long time bantamweight champion of the UFC who feels he's good enough to come back in there and just run the table again. And if he can, that I would be shocked, number one, but number two,
Yeah.
what a message that would send to the division, that this guy can just come out of the broadcast booth for a couple of years and just run the table. I mean, what would that say?
Well, it'd be huge if you can do that. That'd be a pretty big thing to pull off, right?
Yeah,
Maybe one match, maybe, but
yeah,
to
yeah,
do it over and over again, I think that's a super long shot.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fight game, when you're on the fight game for a couple of years, that's like a journey. Like I see a few cases, like we both have seen a couple of cases where people have been away for a couple of years for different reasons to come back. They have a good showing, good performance, but you really can't expect that to be the case because 2 years is a long time on the fight game.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's a cool story though. It's
Yeah.
cool to talk about that, but actually be a reality all the time. Yeah, I don't see it being to be the case really. Yeah, I give maybe one opportunity like that, but I think after that, I'd be kind of like, no
Yeah.
more. We feel your
Yeah.
pain.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and you're right, because we saw what happened to Paul Felder. Paul Felder tried to do that when he
Yeah,
got in the broadcast booth, and he got sent back.
it's not good.
He got sent back. So, um,
But it's
well,
true, like, it's actually the one point about that's true. Like when you do actually look back, like it's like being a coach. You kind of step back and you look back at it all, and you look at it from through a different pair of eyes. We're way more like aware of everything, and you sort of pick out like more details. So I understand where it's coming from. It probably comes back like, oh, I know, I can see more now. I get more. So that part's quite true. But like, don't let that influence your thinking about if you should fire or not. That's why where I'm coming from.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the time has flown by here on TKO Countdown. We are out of time here. Wow, I mean, so many things to look forward to in 2021, and I'm glad, Noel, that we're here to sit back and watch and analyze everything as we move into the year. I want to thank everyone here for watching today's episode. Um, a friendly reminder that this episode can be seen or heard on the Barn Burner Radio Network and all of its 122 platforms. Please check out barnburner.ca for all the news that's late and great in the world of professional sports. Barn Burner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it, and we will see you next week with another amazing episode. Take care, Countdown Nation.
Happy New Year, everybody.